Australia seeking military talks with China over aggression. North Korea stops sending trash balloons over to South Korea. Hello, good afternoon. You're watching World Today with me, Shuhaida Arifin. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Sunday he had a very good meeting with United States Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in Singapore as he seeks to rally support for Kiev while a Russian offensive gains ground. Zelensky met with Austin on the sidelines of the Shangri-La Dialogue, a major security forum attended by defense officials from around the world. The meeting came after Washington decided to partially lift restrictions on using US-provided weapons to strike inside Russia, which Zelensky has hailed as a step forward. A US official traveling with Austin said the pair would meet to discuss the current battlefield situation in Ukraine and to underscore US commitment to ensuring Ukraine has what it needs to defend itself against ongoing Russian aggression. Zelensky is appealing for more military aid for the Ukrainian army, which has been ceding ground to relentless Russian attacks. Zelensky and Austin last met face-to-face in December in Washington, where Zelensky made a last-stage plea for US aid before it ran out. The US Congress approved in April a $61 billion financial aid package for Ukraine following months of political wrangling, unlocking much-needed arms for the country's outgunned troops. Australia has asked for military talks with China. Its Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles said Australia's recent encounters with China's military fell short of being safe and professional, who added that he discussed the issue with Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun on the sidelines of the Shangri-La Dialogue on Saturday.
And there, I think, was a very positive sense on both sides about wanting to grow that dialogue. We really want to get it ultimately back to where it was before it was stopped, and that would be at the level of our Chiefs of Defence Force and our Secretaries of Defence meeting annually. That's where we would like to get this back to. We were encouraged by the conversation that we had yesterday about trying to get more of that in place, and I think that will help communication significantly.
Chinese defense officials met their Australian counterparts in Canberra last year in their first formal meeting since 2019. Since then, Australia has complained of a close encounter with a Chinese jet over the Yellow Sea and sonar being deployed while Australian divers were in the waters close to Japan. On the issue of AUKUS, a defense pact between Australia, Britain and the US, Marles said that Japan is one of the countries the group is keen to engage in time, but emphasized that the AUKUS is not a security architecture. Now, North Korea said on Sunday it would stop sending balloons carrying trash over the border to South Korea, but vowed to resume the practice of anti-North Korean leaflets are flown over again from the south. Meanwhile, South Korea said it would take unendurable measures against North Korea for sending the trash balloons over the border, which could include blaring propaganda from loudspeakers directed at the north. The announcement from President Yoon Suk-yeol's office followed a meeting of his National Security Council on a response to what Seoul said were more than 700 balloons carrying trash that Pyongyang sent over the heavily profited border to annoy its neighbor. The council condemned the balloons and simultaneous GPS jamming as an irrational act of provocation. Seoul did not rule out resuming the loudspeaker blasts, which it stopped in 2018. The Democratic South and the Communist North remained technically at war since 1950 to 1953. Korean War ended in an armistice rather than a peace treaty. North Korea has said its balloons were in retaliation for a propaganda campaign by North Korean defectors and activists in South Korea who regularly send inflatables containing anti-Pyongyang leaflets, food, medicine, money, and USB sticks loaded with K-pop music videos and dramas across the border. Palestine's official Wafa news agency reported that rescue and civil defense teams have recovered the bodies of 50 Palestinians on Sunday as the search operations continue for dozens of people who are missing among the rubble of buildings destroyed in Israel's relentless bombardment. This comes as rescue teams have already recovered over 70 bodies, including 20 children in the area. Medical sources at Kamal Adwan Hospital in the northern Gaza city of Jabalia said that emergency crews and civil defense teams have recovered more than 120 Palestinian bodies from the destroyed roads and under the rubble of collapsed buildings in Jabalia. Authorities added that the cleaning of debris are still underway 2 days after Israeli forces left the camp. On Friday, the Zionist regime announced withdrawing from the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza following a 20-day offensive against the area that involved about 200 airstrikes. According to Palestinian authorities, the offensive has destroyed 70% of Jabalia, which is Gaza's largest refugee camp and home to more than 100,000 Palestinians. Palestinians returning to the camp following the Israeli withdrawal had described the area as unrecognizable due to the sheer extent of the destruction that had been caused by the Israeli aggression. Meanwhile, the Maldives government will ban Israelis from the Indian Ocean archipelago known for white sand beaches and luxury resorts as public anger in the predominantly Muslim nation rises over the war in Gaza. President Mohamed Muizzu has resolved to impose a ban on Israeli passports. A spokesman for his office said in a statement without giving details of when the new law would take effect. Muizzu also announced a national fundraising campaign called Maldivians in solidarity with Palestine. Nearly 11,000 Israelis visited the Maldives last year, which was 0.6% of total tourist arrivals. Official data also shows the number of Israelis visiting the Maldives dropped to 528 in the first 4 months of this year, down 88% compared to the corresponding period last year. Opposition parties and government allies in the Maldives have been putting pressure on Muizzu to ban Israelis as a sign of protest against the Gaza war. Now, in response to the ban, the Israeli Foreign Ministry urged citizens currently in the Maldives to depart. Israeli passport holders have also not been allowed to enter Algeria, Bangladesh, Brunei, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Syria and Yemen. One person has been killed, at least 25 others injured in a mass shooting in the U.S. state of Ohio on Sunday. The shooting happened just after midnight local time in the city of Akron. Officers at the scene near Kelly Street and 8th Avenue discovered dozens of bullet casings and a gun. The Akron Police Department confirmed that no one has been arrested or identified as a suspect and an investigation is underway. In a statement, the force said dozens of people had been shot, one of whom had been killed. It also confirmed many of the victims' injuries were non-life-threatening, but added that some were in more serious condition. Police Chief Brian Harding said the shooting appeared to be a drive-by at a birthday party that had spilled into the street. Earlier, police said they went to a private residence where the birthday party was occurring. About 200 revelers were present and police asked them to disperse from the street because of motor vehicle traffic. Between 10 p.m. and midnight, people returned to the party, and a little after midnight, police said they started receiving calls about shots fired. Harding and Akron's mayor, Shamus Malik, later issued a joint statement on social media promising to bring those responsible to justice. Coming up next, Claudia Sheinbaum to become first woman president in Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum has been declared winner of Mexico's presidential election after polls closed on Sunday, putting her on course to be the country's first woman president. Mexicans voted for a new president on Sunday in a contest dominated by women, a historic first that was overshadowed by election day violence in the crime-plagued Latin American nation. Nearly 100 million people were registered to vote in the world's most populous Spanish-speaking country, home to 129 million people. Thousands of troops were deployed to protect the voters following a particularly bloody electoral process that has seen more than 24 aspiring local politicians murdered. 2 people were reported dead on election day after attacks on polling stations to steal ballot papers. Sheinbaum, a former Mexico City mayor and a scientist by training, had a 17 percentage point lead over her main opposition rival, Xochitl Gálvez, in opinion polls ahead of the vote. The only man running, centrist Jorge Alvarez Maynaz, was trailing far behind in polling. In a nation where politics, crime and corruption are closely entangled, ultra-violent drug cartels have also gone to extreme lengths to ensure that their preferred candidates win. Iran's hardline former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad registered on Sunday to run for president in the country's June 28 election, organized after the death of Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash last month. However, he could be barred from the race as the country's cleric-led Guardian Council will vet candidates and publish the list of qualified ones on 11 June. Ahmadinejad, a former member of Iran's elite Revolutionary Guards, was first elected as Iran's president in 2005 and stepped down because of term limits in 2013. He was barred from standing in the 2017 election by the Guardian Council a year after Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warned him that entering was not in his interest and that of the country. A rift developed between the two after Ahmadinejad explicitly advocated checks on Khamenei's ultimate authority. Khamenei had backed Ahmadinejad after his 2009 re-election triggered protests in which dozens of people were killed and hundreds arrested, rattling the ruling theocracy before security forces led by the elite Revolutionary Guards Corps (IRGC) stamped out the unrest. Other candidates to register on Sunday included the country's current Culture and Islamic Guidance Minister, Muhammad Ismaili, and former lawmaker, Mahmoud Sadeghi. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa said on Sunday that the election result was a victory for democracy after his party, the African National Congress ANC, lost its outright majority for the first time in 30 years. He called on South Africa's political parties to work together for the good of the country. The result announced on Sunday is the worst election showing for the ANC, Africa's oldest liberation movement, once led by Nelson Mandela since it came to power 30 years ago, ending white minority rule. Voters angry at joblessness, inequality and rolling blackouts slashed support for the ANC to 40.2%, down from 57.5% in the previous 2019 parliamentary vote. Official results showed the ANC winning 159 seats in the 400-seat National Assembly, down from 230 previously. The result means that the ANC must now share power, likely with a major political rival, in order to keep it an unprecedented prospect in South Africa's post-apartheid history. Political parties now have 2 weeks to work out a deal before the new parliament sits to choose a president who would likely still hail from the ANC since it remains the biggest force. Hala Tómasdóttir, a businesswoman and investor, has won Iceland's presidential election, topping a crowded field of candidates in which the top 3 finishers were women. Tómasdóttir, 55, was elected to the largely ceremonial post with 34.3% of the vote, defeating former Prime Minister Katrín Jakobsdóttir with 25.2% and Hallahern Lagatode with 15.5%. Tómasdóttir is currently on leave as chief executive of the B Team, a global non-profit co-founded by UK business tycoon Richard Branson to promote business practices focused on humanity and the climate, and has offices in New York and London. Iceland's president holds a largely ceremonial position in the parliamentary republic, acting as a guarantor of the constitution and national unity. He or she, however, has the power to veto a legislation or submit it to a referendum. Thomas Dotti campaigned as someone who was above party politics and could help open discussions on fundamental issues such as the effect of social media on the mental health of young people, Iceland's development as a tourist destination, and the role of artificial intelligence. She will replace President Gunni Th Johannesson, who did not seek re-election after 2 4-year terms. Thomas Dotti will take office on 1st August. Serbia's ruling party defeated the opposition on Sunday in a vote for Belgrade City Council and partial local elections across the country, marked by scuffles between opposition supporters and those of the populist President Aleksandar Vučić. With official results yet to be announced, Vučić, who is also Serbian Progressive Party SNS leader, claimed a commanding victory in the capital and almost all other municipalities around the country where votes were held. According to an unofficial vote count by the pollster CESID, the alliance led by SNS loyal to Vučić won 52.9% of votes in the capital city. The Krani Promene Move Change centre-right movement, led by lawyer Savo Manojlović, came second with 17.2%. The leftist Green Biram Beograd, I Choose Beograd, was third with 12.5%. The rerun in Belgrade came after months of protests that followed 17 December parliamentary and partial local elections, which the opposition and international observers said were marred by irregularities, including media bias and vote buying. Unlike last year's election, SNS was pitted against divided opposition, with some boycotting the vote, while others tried to attract voters. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has joined TikTok, the short video social media platform that is owned by China-based tech giant ByteDance, and one that he tried to ban as president. Trump's joining the platform comes as he ramps up campaign activities ahead of November's presidential election. He posted a launch video on his account on Saturday night. The account President J. Trump, with the address alias Real Donald Trump, had more than 450,000 followers by the next morning. ByteDance is challenging in courts a U.S. law that came into effect in April, requiring it to sell TikTok by next January or face a ban. The White House says it wants to see Chinese-based ownership ended on national security grounds, but not a ban on TikTok. TikTok has argued that it will not share U.S. user data with the Chinese government and that it has taken substantial measures to protect the privacy of its users. Trump's attempt to ban TikTok in 2020, when he was the president, was blocked by the courts. He said in March that the platform was a national security threat, but also that a ban on it would hurt some young people and only strengthen Meta platform's Facebook, which he has strongly criticized. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's re-election campaign had joined the app in February. China landed an uncrewed spacecraft on the far side of the moon on Sunday, a landmark mission aiming to retrieve the world's first rock and soil samples from the dark lunar hemisphere. The landing elevates China's space power status in a global rush to the moon, where countries, including the United States, are hoping to exploit lunar minerals to sustain long-term astronaut missions and moon bases within the next decade. The China National Space Administration (CNSA) said in a statement that the Chang'e-6 craft, equipped with an array of tools and its own launcher, touched down in a gigantic impact crater called the South Pole Aitken Basin on the moon's space-facing side at 6:23 a.m. Beijing time. China's broader lunar strategy includes its first astronaut landing around 2030 in a program in which it counts Russia as a burgeoning partner. In 2020, China conducted its first lunar sample return mission with Chang'e-5, retrieving samples from the moon's near-facing side. That process should be complete within 2 days, and the probe will use two methods of collection, namely a drill to collect samples under the surface and a robotic arm to grab specimens from the surface. Then it must attempt an unprecedented launch from the side of the moon that always faces away from Earth. Still to come in sports, national athlete Shireen Samson sets a new track record in the US. National women's athlete Shireen Samson of Valboy created a sensation when she broke the national record she set herself in 400 meters at the Music City Track Carnival Championship in Tennessee, United States. In the final that took place at Dean Ahayes Stadium, Mufrisboro, Shireen finished the race in the second place with a time of 51.79 seconds. With the timing, the Perak-born athlete successfully erased the record of 51.80 seconds she set herself at the 63rd SAC Relays Annual Athletics Championship in California in April last year. Earlier, Jamaican athlete Leah Anderson clinched the gold when she was the fastest across the finish line with a record of 51.67 seconds, while the bronze went to home athlete Natsha Roinson with a run of 51.82 seconds. Although the 26-year-old athlete broke her record yesterday, she still needs to run at least 50.95 seconds if she wants to qualify for the Paris Olympics opening in July. The Malaysia Athletics Federation MAF Selection Committee must submit the name of either Shireen or Muhammad Azim Muhammad Fahmi to the Olympic Council of Malaysia OCM before 8 July if the two athletes are unable to qualify on merit. Real Madrid players presented the Champions League trophy to an euphoric crowd in the Spanish capital's city centre on Sunday. Thousands of fans flocked to Cibeles Square to cheer Captain Nacho as he hung a club scarf on the statue of goddess Cybele for the second time this season after the La Liga celebrations in May. Los Blancos added another chapter to their already astonishing love affair with European soccer's elite club trophy by claiming a 2-0 win against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League final on Saturday as they were crowned for the 15th time. The story of the season they finished at Wembley was about two generations of players who met, bonded as a group and connected in the pitch like a well-oiled machine to establish the second great dynasty Real spent half a century looking for. The current crop of youngsters and seasoned veterans have matched that with a sixth title in 11 seasons, although Dani Carvajal, who scored the opener, is the only surviving starter from the side that won the 10th a decade ago. Vinicius Jr., hero of their 14th title triumph in Paris 2 years ago, on Saturday became the first Brazilian to score in 2 Champions League finals and is the symbol of Real's young guns who keep proving they can prolong the club's success. Fiorentina coach Vincenzo Italiano confirmed he was leaving the Serie A club after their season-ending win over Atlanta on Sunday. Fiorentina beat Atlanta 3-2 in their last game of the campaign thanks to an Andrea Belotti double either side of a strike by Nicolas Gonzalez, all inside the first half, a week after the 2023-2024 Serie A season concluded for the other clubs. The game was postponed in March when Fiorentina's general manager Joe Barone was admitted to hospital after suffering a cardiac arrest 1 day before he died. Olympiacos beat Fiorentina 1-0 after extra time in Europa Conference League final on Wednesday when a late winner from Ayub El Kaabi gave the Greek club their first major European trophy. Italiano arrived at Fiorentina in 2021, leading them to 2 Europa Conference League finals and the 2022-2023 Coppa Italia final, which all ended in defeat. They finished 8th in the Serie A this season and will play in the Conference League playoffs in the upcoming campaign. Second seed Yannick Sinner shook off a sluggish start and blazed into the French Open quarterfinals on Sunday with a 2-6, 6-3, 6-2, 6-1 victory over local Hopkrantini Mote that kept his world number one dreams alive. Australian Open champion Sinner was in the spot of a bother in front of a partisan fans on court Philippe Chartier as the off-colour 22-year-old went 5-love down in 23 minutes, but he managed to get on the board and avoid an embarrassing bagel. Mote, bidding to become the first Frenchman to make the Roland Garros last 8 since Richard Gasquet in 2016, mixed up his game and produced some spectacular shots. After dropping serve against the run of play, world number 79 Mote rode a huge wave of support and seized the opening set when Sinner hit a shot long before the duo exchanged breaks at the start of the second. Sinner, whose preparation for Roland Garros was hampered by a hip injury and illness, looked like his usual self again from there on as he broke a 4-4-2 lead before levelling the match and tightened his grip by waltzing through the third set. The Italian, who can rise to the world number one for the first time by reaching the final, went on to seal the win that sent France's last remaining hope out. Reigning MotoGP champion Francesco Bagnaia of Italy won his home Grand Prix on Sunday at the Mugello circuit, while his compatriot and teammate Enea Bastianini overtook Pramac Racing's Jorge Martin on the last turn of the final lap to take the second place. Ditching Ducati's traditional red livery for the Italian Azzurri Blue on their home circuit, Bagnaia was a man on a mission to seal the sprint and race a double at Mugello as he closed the gap on championship leader Martin. Bagnaia had been demoted to the second row due to a 3-place grid penalty from Friday's practice, but he overtook 4 riders to race into the lead on the opening lap, remaining in front for the rest of the race. Bastianini stole second place from Martin on the last sector of the final lap to spark wild celebrations in the stands and the Ducati pit garage. The world champion, now 18 points behind Martin, celebrated his victory by strumming an imaginary guitar before he was handed an electric guitar by the fans to go with his helmet and racing suit inspired by the rock band Kiss.
Semua manusia adalah sama, kecuali ketakwaannya. Janganlah pula kamu berputus asa dari rahmat-Nya, kerana sesungguhnya Allah Maha Pengampun. Kamulah orang yang tertinggi, mengatasi musuh dengan mencapai kemenangan, jika kamu orang yang sungguh-sungguh beriman. Kemuncak segala pengorbanan, rukun Islam ke-5. Saksikan Salam Baitullah 2024 bermula 2 hingga 17 Jun 2024 jam 9 malam di TV1 dan saluran Berita RTM. Salam Baitullah, kemuncak ibadah, satu ibrah.
Alright, so that's it for World Today this time round. In our top story, Australia is seeking military talks with China over aggression. I'm Shuhaida Arifin from River to the Sea. Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching.